Mardi Gras parades, lots of concerns about this past weekend, how things were handled, what was done right, what was done wrong. What are you getting? What's the feedback you're getting right now from how things went Saturday night for the big crew of Centaur?
Well, actually, until I was asked to come to speak this morning, I didn't realize that there was any controversy regarding the parade. And I did read some articles since yesterday and this morning, and saw that there were some negative comments about some of the laws, how they were enforced, the way people were acting, things of that nature. From my position, I think things went well. We made a minimum number of arrests. And didn't have any major incidents, and I think everybody, got home safely, and that's our priority.
Now, you said minimum number of arrests, and when you've got a crowd of 400,000 people or so, do police tend to be a little more lax, a little more lenient, a little more understanding than they might be, say, downtown on a weekend night?
Well, and we do. And so, and to kind of speak on that a little bit, as I read a couple of the articles out there, everybody's got their opinion of what the police should and should not do, and understand that in a lot of cases, ordinances and statutes are not put into place so that we can arrest people or summons them. They're put into place so that people understand this is what it takes to have a good time and be safe about it and respect others' rights and privileges as well. Had we arrested 300 people and written summonses for a number of these minor offenses, then I'd probably be getting phone calls this morning about the police going overboard. And so I think anytime you have a parade, you bring people in from out of the city, there is a little bit of leniency. What we won't tolerate is those things that would be dangerous to self or others or cause a great disruption. But we do try to be somewhat lenient in these minor offenses, and we really would prefer people to police themselves. You know what the rules are. We put them out there on the websites. Read them and make sure you and your children follow them.
Chief, I'm going to sound silly here. They put out this list of rules. No one crossing the barricades, no glass bottles. You just talked about that. Shouldn't the parade folks wouldn't you advise them, just don't throw to people that are in front of the barricades? Stop doing it.
Yeah, and I believe that's somewhat of a standing rule amongst the floats. Now, I've never been on a float. My understanding is they're taught to throw towards the back of the crowd to keep people away from ganging up and getting too close to the floats and creating a danger. Unfortunately, there are not enough barricades to barricade the entire route. It's such a long route, and there's only a finite number, or limited number of barricades available. So there are areas in which we just rely on the public to kind of maintain that imaginary line and keep themselves away from those floats.
Chief, I had trouble getting out of the parade. The traffic, and I've been doing this 20-some plus years. Never had an issue like I did this year. Actually called the patrol desk. The sergeant told me, and I'm quoting, Shreveport's not made for Mardi Gras parades. You would disagree, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that you can say whether a city is or is not made for Mardi Gras parades. I will say that any time you have the tens of thousands of people converge into a small area of the city, you're going to have traffic problems. And so what I assume the sergeant meant is it's not set up like an Independence Bowl where parking of large people is anticipated, and you're right by Interstate 20, and it's easy to get people out. We're talking about neighborhoods and side streets and service roads that feed a lot of the parade. Clyde Fant being a limited entrance parkway, downtown area, so it is difficult to get a large number of vehicles in and out. But we tweak the traffic plan every year and look at it constantly and say, how could we do things better? But there's just a case where you have that many vehicles at one time trying to leave. It's not going to be something we can do quickly.
Chief, you had mentioned SPD being, in most cases, a little more lenient for the parades than they might be otherwise at other days of the week or just, like I said, downtown on a weekend night. What are you hearing from the boots on the street? What are you hearing from the officers themselves as they come in and comment on this past weekend's parade? I.e., I assume they would say if it were really rowdy, they'd all be talking among themselves going, man, this was the craziest, this was the worst year ever. Are you getting feedback like that? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm not, so I've been working the parade for 19 years myself, and we've had some years that were really rough, which is one of the reasons we've got so many officers working the parades. I had a number of people come up to me at the parade and say, man, you guys are out here in force. We feel really safe. And I said, yeah, that's the plan. Just about every officer that works for this police department was either working a shift or working working the Mardi Gras parade this weekend. I'm not getting anything negative from officers. I will say, and I'd like it to be known publicly, that we are going to enforce underage drinking a little more strongly. Not that we've overlooked it, but we haven't made a concerted effort, and that did cause some problems this last weekend. You have the group that's under 21 that get in congregate in large areas, and some of those underage kids begin to drink, and then that leads to fights and other issues. And so we're going to be a little more crack down a little harder on that this next weekend and try to prevent some incidents before they occur. You
know, you make an interesting point with so many officers congregated in one rather lengthy place. How's about the rest of the city? How do you sort of allocate forces to keep the rest of the town?
Well, we didn't pull anybody away from their patrol duty. So the same number of officers that will be patrolling on a Saturday evening or Saturday night were still out there. But all those officers that were off or were not working a patrol shift, they were at Mardi Gras. So we have some officers that actually worked the parade immediately after leaving a shift. Some worked the parade, went on shift. And then all those that work in a support or an investigative or administrative function, including myself, worked the Mardi Gras parade.
Chief, my phone's blowing up right now. One suggestion is, let's do Mardi Gras with no alcohol. Or how about make the parade an alcohol-free zone except for some specific areas where alcohol is allowed? Is that doable in your view?
You know, and that's not a decision for me. And I actually spoke last night in the event, and I commented that police officers enforce the laws. We don't get to make the laws nor interpret them. That's the judicial and the legislative branch that do those things. So, you know, I wouldn't be against it. It would certainly cut down on some of the problems we have. I don't know how popular it would be amongst citizens, and so it's not really a decision for me to make.
And your advice to parents and people who do go out there to try to have a good time, what advice would you give them? I know a lot of parents just drop their kids off and they go have fun, and their kids have fun, and things get out of hand. Yeah. Advice from the chief today.
Don't do that. Don't just drop your kids off and say, I'll meet you at the end of the night. Now, if you've got an older juvenile, 16, 17 years old, know where they're going to be, know who they're going to be hanging out with, and check on them from time to time. It's not difficult to walk into a group of people and to find out whether there's going to be problems there later or not, just by looking at the crowd and kind of some of those interactions. And if your child doesn't need to be there, pull them out and have them sit by you.